Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Respected President, Institute of Chartered Accountants, Farooq Saab, Honorable Executive Director, Banking Policy and Regulation Group, State Bank of Pakistan, Honorable Secretary General, OICCI, and Council members of Institute of Chartered Accountants, fellow bankers and fellow chartered accountants, Assalamu alaikum. So I have a privilege of being somebody who is learning banking and someone who, though passed the exams from this institute, but has forgot accounting. So I will try to use a little bit of both subject knowledges, which I am still learning, and will try to share my perspective of this outstanding initiative of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan. So going back to my audit days, I remember which Farooq was rightly mentioning about sending bank confirmation. And I always remember this was the cash and bank section, which was always been allocated to the most junior person in the team. So if you're a junior, you have to do a cash and bank section. And I also did that, but one of my fellow colleague who is now CFO of a large multinational company based out of Turkey, we were on an assignment with a DFI, and DFI maintains a lot of bank accounts. So he was the junior guy. The poor guy was doing the cash and bank section, and he was supposed to send hundreds of bank confirmations. And somehow in Ferguson, those days, we used to use window envelopes. So by chance, the window envelopes were not available. So he has to put all the bank confirmation into the non-window envelope. So the address has to be typed again on the envelope. So he went to the typing pool, got the envelopes typed also, and put all wrong bank confirmation into the wrong addressed envelopes. And then for the next 3 months during the audit, every time we used to get a wrong confirmation from another bank, so the poor chap had the most difficult time of his life. So, and still when we meet, he comes to Pakistan, we discuss the same thing and we think about, oh, you remember bank confirmation on that audit? Yeah. So I think at least for juniors in articleship, ICAP has pretty much resolved the problem. So thank you for that. So now looking at the technology perspective of this, I think this is an outstanding initiative and a lot of technological development have actually enabled it. Although I would say we probably might have done that sometime earlier also, but I think this is also a right time because the the pace at which the technology is now growing, the data which now are now growing, and the digitalization which is now happening is phenomenal, is exponential. We have always experienced technologies growing exponentially. And if you just look back on how these technological development started, and for some times the growth was linear, and now the growth has busted and is exponential. So if we just look back, I would say the computing, which was started between 1940s and 1980s, the early computers were like as big as the size of this room. And they were primarily used either for research purposes or for military purposes or for space research purposes. And the world changed with the invent of the microprocessor. The microprocessor, the Intel first microprocessor was invented in 1971. So before that, the computing was not based on microprocessor. So these processors were used in mainframes and large machines, but the next revolution happened when IBM made the Intel-based personal home computer. And that happened roughly in 1980, 1981. And that changed the entire landscape. Now people have access to personal computers. They have the ability to use them and develop them. But still, despite having a microprocessor invented, access to the computing power at home, the pace of digitization across the globe was not that which is now. So one more thing which happened later on, which was in 1990s, the introduction of World Wide Web. There was networks, there was communication between networks, but mostly used for research and military purposes. So with that invent, when the internet connected all these personal computers, so they started talking to each other. Now there was a need to have some protocols during that period, how these networks should speak to each other. And the first development was Berkeley socket APIs. We have regularly you heard the word API, which is active programming interface. So Berkeley's socket APIs in 1983 was the first effort to standardize how the network should talk to each other. And that was, I think, foundation which was being laid, which led to an exponential growth of use of APIs. And can someone guess when it happened? The exponential growth in use of APIs when these smartphones were invented. The Apple originally was not making the iPhone, it was making iPod. So it was actually selling devices which had songs. And later on, they invented in 2007 introduced iPhone. And then later on, side by side, the Android platform also came in. And in 2008, Apple Store and the Android Store was launched. And both of these provided a platform to developers to make apps, upload on the platform, and that led to an explosion in the use of APIs by the world in 2008. So all these technologies, use of microprocessor, which made processing much easier, much more powerful, much more simpler. The earlier processors, of course, were not that powerful, but in 2000, when parallel computing started, now on the same transistor, you do parallel computing. So that led to massive increase in processing power. Side by side, the internet connected all the data. So information and data was there, but now it's all connected. It communicates with each other. And then the reduction in the cost of storage. So now storage is so cheap, you probably can buy 2 petabyte of storage in $1 million. So it's so cheap. So all these things led to an explosion in the digitization because now you have cheap processing power, you have cheap connectivity, every information is connected, and storage is cheaper also. So that led to the invention, or I would say not really the invention, the growth of artificial intelligence. If you actually look at the foundation for artificial intelligence was sowed when Al-Kharazmi in 9th century invented algebra. So all the data science is based on actually statistics and the underlying is algebra. So we should appreciate the fact that it was Muslims who invented algebra on which all that statistics and the data science works, and on which all these AI and machine learning and deep learning models are based on. So what changed? The processing power, the availability of information. And as a result of that, now the world is completely changing from 2018 onwards. Now any individual has free access to an artificial intelligence based model. Right now, the most well-known model for general public is ChatGPT and BART and things like that, which are large language models. The conceptual model was there, but the availability of data and processing power actually brought it into this phone. So that's the two main things which have changed the world. And now these, according to some article, the originally the API, the artificial intelligence model of ChatGPT was trained on 5 billion lines. So it is running with that much amount of information, which for a human being is impossible. So now you have to imagine, because you cannot estimate, you can only imagine the exponential growth which the world is going to experience in the field of digitalization, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and how they are going to facilitate the growth of the entire world. So what is more important for all of us as a bankers and an accountant, as a professional, is to equip ourselves into these technologies and not just rely on these terminologies and technologies as a buzzword, but go deeper and understand what is weak AI, what is strong AI, what is supervised learning, what is unsupervised learning, what are the models which runs behind the supervised learning, and what are the models which runs behind the large language models. So that will help us to introduce these technologies into our organizations, into Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan, into central bank, into all banks and all manufacturing organizations. Because one very interesting thing this technology will do for countries like Pakistan, which have lagged behind in the industrial revolution, is to leapfrog by using these technologies, because these are freely available now pretty much. to the entire world. So it depends on the particular nation or a country how to leverage it and then how to capitalize on it. So Pakistan can leapfrog using information technology and financial technologies, and whatever has been missed during the industrial revolution, that gap can be easily covered. So I think this is the need of the hour for us as a country. We are a country with a very large population, 240 million people living here. Almost 65% of them are under 30 years of age. So it's time to train those people into information technology, and the entire world is short of labor force. So this is a labor force which we can train, but the world need trained labor force. If we are able to train our labor force, we have a big asset. So let's try to work on that. And I think this is one of the right initiative which ICAP has taken in launching the e-audit confirmation platform. And I really appreciate the effort ICAP is doing on the digital side and the information technology side as well, which to some extent is going much beyond their original scope, but they have embarked on that journey. So I would like to congratulate the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Madam Khushid Kotwal, who is very, very passionate about digitalization and information technology. And now it's time for ICAP to do collaboration for international institutions and work faster and smarter on improving the quality of certifications and qualifications which can be rendered to the young generation so that they can mark the difference and make this country a very prosperous and successful country on the world map. Thank you so much.